Hello and welcome to the Free Associates. That's right, folks. The Free Associates. The freedom to associate with any idea or anything that comes our way. Because why? Well, because, people love freedom. Although my freedom might not be your freedom. Waylon is over here dancing. That's how he dances. Should I tell him not to dance? No, I'm not going to tell him not to dance.
You can't tell me what to do. You kidding me? Look at that.
You're not supposed to talk during the intro. You know that. Now, we are in a new situation. We did, for 3 days, a radio show. Well, let me back up. We've had the radio show for almost a year. This is the Free Associates. And we basically tackle sociological ideas about society. We try to do a reading and we try to figure things out. But, we do it on WMUA 91.1 every week for the last year. And then when the kind of quarantine hit, we decided, well, let's try to get in there. We'll live broadcast to the Valley. And after 3 days, we just got locked out. Everything got shut down over at the campus center. And so we're doing it here on Facebook Live, which has some advantages for you guys to chime in and all kinds of good stuff. Now, that being said, this will be rebroadcast on WMUA the next day. And so that, well, there's some kind of programming coming out of WMUA, and also that we're trying to connect the local community with one another. All right. Now, we're not going to do it today, Waylon, but next time I want you to have a drawing that I can free associate on. Unless you want to do that kind of quickly. You want to do a drawing?
All right. No, I just got an object.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay. So wait, no, don't. Let me tell the people what we do. Is that one of our loosening exercises, because we try to stay really loose, because if we get really tight, is to free associate. Like, that's part of the show. So usually Waylon shows me a drawing, and then I go in deep, and I free associate. And then later, I show him something, and he free associates, which he cheats.
And then Norm complains about my free association.
You'll see. If you don't know it, you'll see. I like the object thing. So, in 3, 2, 1, show me the object. California, 1984. I'm with my grandparents. They're theosophists, and they have all kinds of new age stuff, like weird stuff that they do. It's hot and dry, and I'm like in 6th grade, and I'm like pretty overweight, and I don't know what I'm doing out there. And at one point, we go into this like giant mirrored crystal ship, which has like audio piping in it. It's like the worst thing you could ever do to an overweight 6th grader is put them in a fun house of mirrors with new age. Okay, how would you rate that free association?
I've heard a couple of those key terms before, so I'm going to give you a B-.
No, wait, you don't grade me.
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism, my friend. I grade myself. All right, now, folks, we're going to wind that music down a little bit and just be with each other. Now, I am the BIQ. I'm the barbarian in question. And
BIQ?
I'm the BIQ. And I am the co-host with this guy of the Free Associates. This is our quarantine kind of special. This is the rig that we've set up in the interim. And he's helped a lot, although this might be a good time for you to walk in and give me some props.
I'll give you props.
Okay.
It took a while.
Yes.
It took a while. Let's just get that out of the way.
Like 2 weeks.
But you know what? Troubleshooting, perseverance, and initiative are the 2 things that you need in this ragged dick life that we live. So I'll give you that. You persevered.
What's the words?
You took initiative.
What that was?
Ragged dick?
What is
that book?
Okay.
Terminology?
I heard that differently.
Oh.
I heard that kind of differently. Yes, and I have to say, a big troubleshooter guy. If the dishwasher's broken, it's almost zen. I'll just stand in front of it and look at it for a while. I'll lower the lid. The secret to fixing something is troubleshooting it correctly. If you can troubleshoot it correctly,
A story that sticks with me, we used to have this Montgomery Ward microwave.
Yeah.
That it literally was wood paneled like steel around, just gaudy as hell. But my father told me that he initially got it from my grandfather, and when it didn't work. And he sat there for 15 minutes looking at it, looking at it. And then after 15 minutes, he just goes, work. And he pressed the button and the thing worked for 40 years.
Yeah, that's
Ridiculous.
amazing. It's funny. I have a lawnmower. It's like a 2-cycle lawnmower. As soon as I saw it, I thought this thing won't break on me. Like I did have and it hasn't yet. It's like 4 or 5, but it's like 40 years old. You know, the stuff they made 40 years ago was way more built to last.
That's why you need two 1988 Toyota vans. They just built to last.
Well, let's get to that in a minute. Now, meanwhile, just to show you my technical excellence,
Waylon, I'm gonna let you know that I have you beat in an audio way. Like, I have much more flexibility here than you do. What do you think about
I
that?
just use the natural tone of
Well, I
my
can go deeper.
voice.
Don't challenge me because
Or pass out.
I'll get this straight.
so I have that. Now, the other thing I noticed, because I was popping around in Zoom preferences, do you know that if you go to Zoom preferences and then you go to video, there's actually a touch up my appearance button. Do you know that? I'm gonna take it off right now and tell me if you see difference. See? Look. Like watch. 3, 2, 1. Do you see that?
You look like you have eggshell skin.
I know. It looks a little fake. And there is a kind of moral dilemma here. Like, do I really want to do this or do I want to be
right when
this
the
guy?
first it was like iPhone 8 Plus or something came out, they were touching up your pictures without you asking. So you got to think of that one for a second.
Okay. Your audio is terrible. I'm surprised.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Is this
you
better?
sound like you're in a can. So what do you think?
In a can.
By the way, can you monitor any Facebook comments, because that's definitely beyond my ability.
Oh. Wait.
Like-
Ready?
Yeah.
Boom. Biggity
Boom. What?
Biggity boom.
Well,
Better?
you're gonna have to turn up, though. I think.
Turn out.
Yeah. Was the mic not
Okie
plugged
dokie.
in?
No, I just had a different mic, but that's better.
I think that is better. And
That's gonna be better.
you know, I am the old man in the situation. I am gonna go ahead and touch up my appearance for now. It just gives me this kind of like dreamy blur look.
Well,
I'm
if you're gonna
totally
do
into
that,
it.
then
Do it. I want to see what.
I'm heading over to Mordor.
No, Waylon. As long as the logo's there. You can do that.
Dude.
Is that a Zoom thing? You can do that?
Yeah.
Oh, well then we'll put the free associates there. Especially where you are.
It cuts off my head though.
You
That's
got
probably
bad
good.
lighting too. You look clammy. You look actually not that well. I hope you're okay. But like my lighting is pretty sweet. Got to get rid of that.
You gotta get a front
Blue
light
fan.
over there. You got
What's
too
that?
much backlight on you.
Looks
Looks good in the
good.
back. Gotta get a front light.
Okay. Well, there is a light over there. Now, Whale Dog, you and I are old compadres, and you know, I don't know if you didn't really ask me about my experience going to the radio station on those quarantine days. What felt like a heroic journey. You just were like, "Oh, what's going on? Oh, well, it's canceled." Do you want to talk about that now?
A heroic journey, or a guy who got up in the middle of a heated moment in the stands of a stadium when like a game's going on, and like you're just wandering the concession stands alone, just trying to find somebody with what's going on.
I don't understand that reference. What does that mean? I don't get the reference.
But no. I mean, you were venturing out. I will say that, and you were doing a little bit of grifting or hustling, taking an
Yes.
initiative.
Well, let's not get into that.
In a good way.
There was a water. Let's just not even get into that because this is live broadcasting. I did what I had to do. And you know, now that feels really long ago, 2 weeks ago, right? I mean,
Unbelievable.
well, and just so it's on the record, I think it already is. You didn't think school was going to be canceled. I talked to you 2 days before school got canceled, and you're like, "You're crazy. School's not going to be canceled."
The new normal changes every 3 hours in our country. So
Yeah, but
the new
all you-
normal, this is like, I can't believe you would say that, but it's going to be like, we're going to wear hazmat suits to the beach in about 3 days. And you're going to be like, oh yeah, I can't believe you didn't want to wear your hazmat suit to the beach.
Well, I know. And closing the beaches, that feels like the one place you can keep open. Am I wrong? Like, why would you close the beaches? But you know, they're doing what they're doing. I mean, you can have some sense of it because, you know, Italy just went through 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're on target for having even
I can't
worst
believe
case
you
scenarios
say
too.
that,
So
but
we'll just have to see where it takes us.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully people are smartening up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see a cool chart. My brother has been sending me some really good information, like science based information and stuff like that. And this chart was saying that April's going to be bad and that May is going to settle down. That doesn't mean we're back in school, but like it's looking at April 15th for a peak, which really lines up with like Italy. You know how far we're a couple weeks behind Italy, and Italy
Yeah.
was like 7 weeks behind China.
Yeah, and yes and no. I mean, the thing is, I said it before a couple weeks ago, but I do not trust anything that China
Yeah,
says.
agreed. Agreed.
If they're opening up Wuhan and their casualties are X, Y, or Z,
Yeah.
they're tenfold of what they're probably actually telling us right now.
Well, there's an article, I think it's in Business Insider, because I Googled Wuhan today, just thinking like, whoa, what's going on there? And this article says that they massively underreported, which it should come as no surprise to anybody. It's an authoritarian regime. They can say whatever they want. And they're saying...
There also, the reports were coming out right after there was reports of them kicking out American journalists. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're going to take over the narrative right now.
Yeah. So it is probably that. Although, just to let the listening audience and now viewing audience know, we try to stay away from like specific politics on the Free Associates. And that's not because we're just scared to talk about that. And Waylon, you can kind of like come in at any point. I think it's because we're more interested in where things are going, idea-wise, not like the minutia of primaries or like present-day politics. I think the Free Associates is trying to imagine what's possible, not what's necessarily going on now. There's plenty of access to that. There's plenty of channels and plenty of talk about that. Wouldn't you say that's correct, Waylon?
Yeah, I think the other part of it too is not necessarily even reaching conclusions. I mean, especially now. I mean, we've been doing this for what, almost we're approaching a year right now, or we're over a year.
A year.
We observe, we don't know where things are to go,
right.
and especially in today, in the times that we're living right now, we have, like I said, everything is changing from day to day, and the new normal changes so rapidly that it's you never want to put your foot down and draw a line in the sand on anything when it comes to when it comes to all this.
Geez.
Just talking about it.
Oh my God! Right now, I just feel like no one knows anything. Although I do think it's going to yield so much interesting information that we're going to have to process. I'm not a big data fan because I feel like the problem with data is that you never have the time to process how much there is. But I think there will be some really interesting takeaways. How, each nation is just like its own part of the partition of this giant hard drive in the world. They're all taking different approaches based on those national borders and how they're treating it. I looked up Afghanistan today. Well, obviously, they're having trouble with it. They don't have a really elaborate medical system. The Taliban's taking back control over the country. So I was curious, like, how is that impacting Afghanistan? But, hundreds of nations all trying to deal with it in different ways. The death rate in Germany, really small. Like really shockingly small. A lot of cases. South Korea, testing. They were testing in parking lots. So, I think it's a perfect time. And the whole world is at home, like forced to come at rest after 30 years of hyperactivity. So it's a perfect time to reflect on, like, well, what would we actually want the world to look like after this? Positive, not necessarily negative. Yeah,
we've had conversations about the shrinking of that globalism. I think that there's going to be a yearning for new approaches to globalism, but I don't think there's any shrinking anytime soon, especially after the deceleration of the economy. I mean, things need to pick up, and they need to people are hungry to go out. I think people are hungry to go and help out the cause and to get back to the normalcy that we had. And I think that that's going to, once things die down and bans are lifted and shelter in places go away, I think that we're going to see that return to normalcy power through, and you're going to see this big push into globalism again.
Well, you don't know, and I don't know, and that's important. I get,
yeah, for sure.
Like it's a case can be made. You know, we did an episode during the summer was globalism versus nationalism, and I think that you're a proponent of globalism, and I think there's a lot to be said for it. I'm probably a little bit.
I love
more,
my Amazon.
Well, so do I, and we talked about that, but I disagree. But I don't know, and I'm also thinking, like that. Pushing through that you're talking about, it does like make me wonder, like, there's other threats that we're facing, global warming and overconsumption, and I would hope if what you're talking about is true, and you've mentioned this a number of times before, which is the internet's always going to be a global connector as long as it's not shut down or something like that. Like that infrastructure's there for better and worse. There's some better and there's some worse. But, I don't see that happening because a down economy is a local economy. Like, that's what happens historically. But the Saudis are fighting an oil war. They're destroying West Texas and Russia and Venezuela. I don't even know what they're doing in Venezuela right now. They were already in such bad shape. And now the Saudis have taken this moment to... But again, we don't want to get too specific, but yeah.
Yeah. But exactly. I mean, just overlay the fact that natural disasters don't go away during a pandemic. Right. Other economic, socioeconomic problems, cultural problems, everything does not go away.
Exactly.
So you have to overlay all of this stuff and just
wars don't go away.
Worse.
Wars
don't.
We drone struck in Iraq a week ago. I was just thinking, like, God. We're doing drone strikes during this thing. But you're absolutely right. Things go on, including Netflix and Amazon deliveries and Cumbies coffee and stuff like that. All that. By the way, you have it.
I had my fix today.
The one thing I thought was smart about the coffee ban, in Northampton you can't get coffee. Although at Cumbies, now they have people filling up your coffee and giving it to you. They've roped it off. But the one intelligent thing about that is a lot of people will go in just for coffee, and I think they're trying to limit that. They don't want people going in like I will. I'll go to Cooper's.
I do that.
Right. Well, they don't really want that. They don't want a bunch of people congregating in Cumbies because they need coffee. Get a coffee machine. I'm sure you have one. Ice the coffee, and drink the iced coffee, right?
Yeah, but it's a special way too. And God bless their souls for making my coffee, but I have a very specific way that you make a Cumbies coffee.
Okay.
You need to do every step. It's a 10-part step, and if you skip a step, and one of the most important steps is that you fill it up all the way to the brim, and then you drink 3/4 of it, and then you fill it up again, and you can't do that in a pandemic.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't listening. Sorry, I got a little. Now. Let's tell people what we have planned. Now, the goal right now is that every day at 3 p.m., hopefully you're with me. But if you can't, another one of the pre-associates, we have a bullpen of people we can call, is going to tackle from this larger Politico article, which you'll see the link in the description. And Politico does something pretty cool every once in a while. They'll throw a question to about 30 or 40 writers, thinkers, professors, and say, answer this question. There was one a couple months ago that said, describe the tens for future historians. It was a good one. Describe the 2010 to 2020. Now, the one we're doing is how COVID will change the world. And obviously. And we're just going to do one at a time. It's like 2 paragraphs long. And what we want to do with you guys on Facebook Live and then later rebroadcast the next day on WMUA, because we can stream out of there, is get your impressions of this. Is this going to happen? So just to give you a kind of like heads up, like tomorrow, the first writer says social distancing isn't going away. It's not going to go away. I know. Hey, listen. We don't have to agree with that, but I don't really want to uncork it now. I want to save it for later. I'm kind of with you, and my wife Robin is. We're all kind of like, maybe. We don't know, but there might be some people out there. I hope not. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want to say. I mean, I think the exact opposite. I think that when something like this happens again in a decade or two, we're gonna go, oh, not this again, and not and try to like stock up or stack up on ventilators and be like, okay, we're gonna weather this storm because we can't shut down our economy.
Okay, yeah, it's possible. The Black Death came into Italy. That's an echo. I mean, it didn't come into Europe through Italy. And just like a little history lesson, this is kind of a cool small history lesson.
You being an expert over here?
Well, okay, but you gotta understand that high school history teachers never an expert. We're always generalists. I mean, there are history teachers at the school who have deep knowledge about certain things, but generally, you're a generalist. So, can I just do this?
Yeah,
Is that cool?
course.
So, the Black Death came from northern China. And it came from what they called the pharaoh rat. And the pharaoh rat was like this long. It was like a mink. And you'd make coats out of them. You make a mink coat. So they look like minks. They were long. They had fur. And every once in a while, the price on these would spike. And Chinese from Middle and South Chinese would go north. It was actually more like Mongolia, where these pharaoh rats were. And they would go north because you could make a lot of money capturing these pharaoh rats and then sending them to Europe.
I would like to be a pharaoh rat wrangler.
Yeah.
I think I'd be good job at that.
Well, let me tell you.
I would definitely be a beaver trapper in the pioneer times.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no doubt. With your van. Your caravan.
Running over beavers.
You'd have a wagon. You'd have the coolest orange wagon on the prairie. But the pharaoh rat, the Mongolians knew that if they found a pharaoh rat dead, they wouldn't touch it because they were aware that there's something called white pest disease. It's it's the bubonic plague, and so whenever they saw like a pharaoh rat dead, they were like, just kick that off the cliff. But the Chinese who had come north, they just thought, well, here's a dead pharaoh rat. That's worth $80. I'm going to pick that up. But that's where the plague started and then went down the Silk Road in caravans with rats and fleas and all that, left Kaffa and the Black Sea, went down the Mediterranean and entered the boot of Italy. But just a side note, we talk about the Black Death in 1348, but it came back every 10 years for a while. But it was never as bad as that first time.
I mean, to a much lesser extent, SARS and things is never fully cured here.
No, but I just want to be clear. It came back and killed 30% of the population the second time. It killed a lot of places. It killed half the population. When it came back, it was bad. But it wasn't psychologically bad the way it had been the first time. This happened every 10 years for decades. And if you look at the art from the second half of the 14th century, death everywhere. But playful death. It's not all dark death. It's skeletons dancing with people.
Skeletons going to Aldi's and
yeah, right. We'll have our own.
Getting Cumby's coffees.
We'll have our own. The other thing about doing this political series is I am a little concerned by the way the media covers events like this. And I'll give you an example. When New Orleans got flooded, I felt like they got stuck on one story, the day the music died in New Orleans. You don't hear trumpets on the levee. It's not everyone plays a trumpet in New Orleans. Okay, can we talk about something else? Can we talk about... No, seriously. Or the Paris attacks. They're like brochures for whatever city gets attacked. And there's no real thought put into do we want to learn anything from this? Do we want to this is a moment to reconsider. September 11th is a moment to reconsider things.
I think you're forgetting two things. One, you're forgetting that everybody is trying to develop a narrative or a context. So context, I'm not saying narrative is in pushing like propaganda, but a narrative for whatever the news is for continuity purposes. For the second part, which is even producers of the news, that is a job. So you need to pass that off to the next person, especially in a 24-hour news cycle. So what happens is that if you start branching out and taking risks on different angles and stories, it's going to get discombobulated because there's no one to pass the baton to who comes in on the next 8-hour shift. And so those narratives that get stuck on is, I'm not saying that's a good thing. Yeah. I'm saying it's the lowest common denominator, especially when you're looking around and the stakes are ratings. And if you don't have the right story, then it's the same reason why all the you see Marvel movies come out in the theaters over and over and over, and Disney makes remakes of the same movies. It's because it's the safest bet. It's not going to tank your ratings, and you're not going to lose anything if you play it safe.
Yeah,
that's
okay. Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. And Robin and I have been talking, like, why is every story about Italy? Like, what's going on in Germany? I mean, you hear a few, but I get it. To your point, that's the story everyone's following. So let them do that. But I'm not crazy about it. I get really tuned out. I'm just like, okay, here's the trumpets on the levee. Here's the day the croissants died in Paris. Whatever it is, it's just like, come on. So,
and I'm not saying it's right at all.
No, but thanks for the context, because especially what you said about handing the story over, it's not something I had really considered, but it's a 24-hour news cycle, and people have to basically be up on the story and be like, we're back in Italy, and I know what's going on because I just watched our news story from before. So it does streamline the process, yeah.
And on the other side of the spectrum, the thing that I think is the positive that you can take out of all of this is the democratization of just the internet and information allows for other sources to come up that have lower stakes. So just as an awesome podcast, I think it was I can't remember if it was This American Life or Planet Money, but it was a regular guy who he did journalism as a hobby in China. And he was on the front lines for the very, very, very first news reporting of Wuhan. And he was just broadcasting through Chinese. Basically, Chinese is the Chinese version of Facebook. Forget what it is right now. But he was just going live. And people were watching in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And eventually, I mean, the story gets dark, but there's avenues where it's also avenues where you can construct conspiracy theories and it can get pretty dark, but there are avenues for low risk, deep, in-depth journalism that happens either in the context of an individual or in these kind of mom and pop shop places that do damn good journalism, to be honest.
Absolutely. And so that's what we're not trying to do journalism, but we are trying to do perspective. Excuse me. I'm going to be curious how this audio, I mean, my audio is so good right now. I sound so smooth, but I can't tell if that's just because it's internal. Whereas you still sound like an amateur over there. Like,
I'll have to get my better microphone over here.
Yeah, you don't have a good mic?
It's the analog to digital converter. I got to get
Well,
going.
the other thing is I'm running my mic through Logic, and then it's running into Zoom or wherever it is. So
just got latency, my friend.
Well, I do have latency, and so I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm slurring my words, but I don't actually think I am. But it sounds like it. Okay, so your point is well taken. I can't remember what you said, but it's useful to say that. By the way,
always well taken.
By the way, I've been listening, as I always do our radio show. Do you know what your number one? I say like interesting or perhaps. You have a number one saying that you say all the time. It's fine. We all have these. I'm not criticizing. Do you know what it is?
I say something. So
it's a
my
phrase.
father always says,
it's a
"In
phrase.
that there."
It's not that. It's close. It's a phrase.
And so?
No. I really like this blemish touch-up. I look 10 years younger.
Maybe he's born with it.
You want to know what it is?
Maybe it's Norm Cody.
Do you want to know what it is? Your phrase.
What is it?
This, that, and the other thing.
This, that, and the other thing.
This, that, and the other
Oh,
thing.
my grandfather used to say like that there, that there, and my
Oh
dad.
yeah,
said,
mine too. My grandfather, those guys down there. Yeah, but this, that, and everything, the other thing should be the name of your individual podcast. Just a suggestion to you and everybody. I don't need to suggest Tiger King to anyone else because everyone knows about it. And I did tell you before you had heard about it. But this is the quarantine smash hit is Tiger King.
Unbelievable.
But as a podcast, there's a podcast called Philosophize This. It's excellent. Really short, half an hour. This guy, I don't know how this guy knows everything. I mean, his knowledge is profound. Because he can synopsize Schopenhauer in 45 minutes. You're like, I get he's cherry picking, but it's just a recommendation. Anything you want to recommend to people right now?
I'm getting into the daily more and more.
Yeah, what is that?
But that's par for the course.
Yeah.
But
what is that? The daily?
The daily, I think it's the New York Times does it. It's just in-depth things.
Okay.
I mean, everybody's covering Corona right now, but my go-to is Planet Money. Planet Money is just brilliant. They've been doing awesome coverage about breaking things down layman's terms of like, okay, when is the unemployment check come? How does that even work? Like, are they gonna have to hire a whole bunch of people? Like, just really like the first questions, like the top 10 questions in your mind, they go out and they figure them out.
Excellent. Oh, I'll definitely listen to that because that's the other part of this thing is that the economic thing is, I mean, it's amazing to me that we are still exercising and eating any food we want, watching Netflix, going on Facebook. That shows a resilient society. Not all countries have it this easy. And not all people in this country have it that easy. But I'll say for myself, like, nothing's changed. I haven't been deprived of anything except social contact, which is huge. I miss working. How are you doing not working?
I've shifted all my work into different avenues, so I'm actually probably more busy.
Let me rephrase the question. How are you doing not seeing your students? Because that's more to I'm working, but
yeah. I think that's it's hard. It's hard. I've kind of gone rogue a little bit. I've done some Zoom meetings for the transcript, which is our journalism program, just because you have to. It's just part of the thing that you need to do. And so it's been nice. We've had literally 5 minutes of just looking at each other's dogs, like bringing the dog into the thing and introduce your dog. Awful. So there's been little tidbits of just kind of humanity coming through and surfacing, which is really nice. The thing that I am concerned about is that it's the proximity of, I think we overestimate the proximity of the screens. We're right next to each other. We're within arm's reach right here. Mm-hmm. But to press that button, once we press that button, we're miles and miles away. And that's something entirely different than we see in the intimacy of our classrooms. Mm-hmm. And so getting kids into the actual virtual classrooms next week is going to be a lot harder than I think that people are anticipating. Yeah. I think that you're going to have a really low percentage of turnout for those. Yeah. And you're going to have to keep on constantly pestering and encouraging students to get onto these avenues and make sure that they're prioritizing those relationships and still building on them. How many people are inside of your cell phone and your contacts, and how many do you talk to on a regular basis? How many people are in your Facebook friends, and how many people do you actually engage with on a regular basis? We have this impression that we're close to each other with technology like this, but now's the time to put our money where our mouths are and engage with each other. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. That's another thing that's going to happen. I agree with you. Attendance is not going to be taken. So, like, there's no consequence. My hope is that students are like, it's just like almost like a self-care thing. Like, I'm going to get dressed. I told my students, I've done a couple assignments about, like, how are you doing? How has this changed? And they're like, well, I'm in my pajamas all day. And I said, okay, that's cool. But, think about it in a week. How does it feel in a week? It's okay. They were happy about it. I get to sleep in. I said, I totally get it. But I don't because I have 2 small kids. But in a week, ask yourself the question, does that still feel good? If it doesn't, then you really should change it. So
and it's a cascading.
I'm wearing suits a lot.
I totally agree, and it's a cascading psychological. There's cascading psychological values to everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
I get up, I put my jeans, I take a shower, I put my jeans on, I put this is a tucked in shirt. It's a button up shirt. This is not every single day, but I put my jeans on, I put my shoes on, because then by putting your shoes on, it prevents you from getting back into your bed. That's my thing.
Is that right?
Once the shoes are on, then I'm like, I gotta undo these shoes, and then I have to get in bed and I have to make that conscious decision to take the shoes off.
So sounds lazy.
So then I go and get a cup of coffee.
There you go. Then you go and
contaminate the entire world.
Mingle with as many people as possible. Yeah. Well, these are lessons that you learn, and our students are learning things about themselves, just like every nation and every person and every institution in the world is learning stuff. One of the nice things about what we're doing we're forced to do is that Harper and Rockwell will never forget this. Like, they're their only friends. That's all they see is each other and us. But it's cool. Like, they're getting along, and I never had that. I wasn't quarantined with my brother and sister for 2 months. Like, it's powerful. It's going to leave an impression on both of them, for sure. Yeah.
If this happened with me and my brother and my sister, it would have left impressions of hockey sticks across the back.
Yeah. Well,
Irish blood.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have plenty of Irish blood.
And Italian temper.
Well, I gotta say, birth sequence here helped a lot because Harper's the older one, and she's just not violent the same way Rocky is. I mean, Rocky's not hyper violent, but hitting is his go-to. Less now, and I'll tell you, we've been way more disciplined with him. He starts yelling, go up in your room, and that just stops everything. He's like, he won't even yell because
he does it immediately.
No, I'm saying it's sometimes hard to get him up in his room. But if you do that a couple of times, the behavior goes way better. This is not rocket science. But when you're in your normal life with, like, getting Harper to piano, we actually have the time to focus and implement consequences in a consistent way with our kids. And their behavior, I mean, Harper's not a behavior issue, but Rockwell's behavior has gone way better. Because I'm not going anywhere, so go to your room. Okay? Like, I got nowhere to go, pal. Go to your room because I'm at the bottom of the staircase. Go back to your room. I'm not like popping out to do a radio show or something like that. So his behavior has definitely got a tune up. Let's put it that way.
I would also caution the other side of that entire.
Oh, since you're an expert on parenting, like, go ahead.
Well, yes. So yes, Dr. Whalen is going to teach you about children right now.
Ouch.
But
you
think about parents or like actually bad situations in which this could be exacerbating the problems at home.
Yes.
Think about that.
Well, they're in my prayers every night, and there's no question. I like to think of us as a pretty happy, healthy family. We're not like, hey, that kind of happy because
what kind of happy?
I'm just like. Yesterday, I'm like, Harper was bothering me, and Rocky was, I'm like, God damn it, go listen to Nancy F. and Drew. Like, she has an audiobook. Like, we're kind of rough people. Robin and I are
stole the Great Hope Diamond? Go figure it out.
I don't effing know. Leave me alone. We're kind of rough, but we're a happy family. I think everything's going to turn out well. But yes, there's no question. And people like Kelly Knight in our district and other adjustment counselors have been doing some really good work. But yeah, I know that. I know you're absolutely right about that. Now, just on a personal note, you're excited because you got a new van. And Waylon is famous for his orange van, Vanessa. And it's a Toyota mid-80s, 87, 88 van?
88.
88. Yeah, yeah. And this is another thing that you and I have in common. I've always loved that van. Always loved that van. In
It's
fact,
so
I
stagey.
almost when I
Stage.
when I went on tour in 2004 with the Walkman as an opener, I wanted to buy one of those vans. My parents were like, talk me out of it. They were like, you're just gonna get arrested everywhere you go. So I ended up renting a car instead of getting that
Oh, I
van.
bought it.
Yeah, you must have bought that. I've seen a couple, and there's the Hayachi. Do you know the Hayachi van? Those are cool.
Yeah.
You don't like
It's
those?
basically the same thing.
I know, but some of the lights and detailing can be pretty cool on that. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. So now you have two vans. You haven't named the second van, but you've registered it with the DMV.
And on top of that, it was good that I didn't name it because vanity plates are suspended right now. And when I went to the RMV
Forget
today,
about it.
I had this
Even
really
bother.
weird exchange. Well, first off, it was the most beautiful RMV experience of my life.
Right.
You had to make an appointment.
Yeah.
I showed up at, I think it was 11:40, 11:45, and I was for a 12 o'clock appointment. I was out before 12.
Well, never
It
in
was-
the history.
there's
So
no
what was your
line, everybody's
exchange? What was weird about
Observing
your
social
exchange?
distancing,
Yeah.
wiping down things was
Yeah.
awesome.
What was your exchange?
It was here's the papers, stand 6 feet back and just let her type on the computer and like maybe one or two questions. And then I awkwardly said, vanity is suspended.
Right.
And she was
Never.
like,
Never for
is that an
Wayland.
existential problem?
Yeah. Wayland's vanity is never suspended.
Vanity suspended?
Get a
Just went
Red
back.
Sox. Get a Red Sox plate or something fun. I wish I had done that. I got a Red Sox plate. I can't believe they're not going to play baseball, man. It's the best social distancing sport there is.
It's the most boring sport.
Okay, relax. Listen, it's literally role modeling social distancing is baseball.
Yeah.
You can't get further away from the other players.
You're
man.
isolated, you're bored.
No, we're
have
not
to go-
critiquing baseball right now.
That's what
I'm,
it is.
I'm saying it's a sport that could exist. No catcher. Don't do a catcher.
T-ball.
No ump.
T-ball.
Yeah, you don't know. You obviously struck out when you were younger, I think is what's
I
going
did.
on. You did, yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
I wasn't
was a
good
pitcher.
at baseball.
I was a pitcher. I feel bad for our students who are looking forward to spring sports, those who are going to graduate. Do you think commencement will happen? I guess we just don't know. It could happen later in the summer.
I think it will happen.
Yeah, it'll happen somewhere or another. It's not like
Because
college.
I think it's more than anything. I think it's a symbolic closure to all of this if we can do it. Because if that means that that social distancing is done, that we've weathered the storm, that there's a closure to whatever this semester is, and whatever what they've been deprived of their high school experience. So I think that we will have commencement.
Yeah.
And it
well,
happens late enough where you could push it theoretically to late June.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could do it in August.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason. Well, there's a lot to be determined. Are your students keeping up with the stuff you're giving them?
My transcript kids are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, they're
Good kids.
they're on it. They're producing awesome stuff. They're engaged. It's just that's I feel really good about that.
Good.
When it was announced that we weren't grading my intro courses, and again, I understand it too. Like what they have been assigned for me is the things that I assign before I actually go into my lecture. And so the only thing that they're doing is interacting with video curriculum and everything. And so before grades were announced, it was like I had probably had 85% completion. After it said grades were suspended, it went down to like 35% completion. It was
That's what I'm getting, and not all of them, but grades are coming back. So right. Yeah. So we'll see some faces again, and I think it's an opportunity for them.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you, but I'm actually creating weekly photo and video contests that are like
Tell me about it.
monetary.
Yeah.
So there's first, second, and third place.
Yep.
I'm going to have different themes and different kind of missions each week. I think it's not set in stone yet, but I think this week is going to be a vlog or a video diary of just a compilation of your week or what's going on, and you can
Cool.
kind of cut that up with whatever you have. You can have iMovie on your phone, you can have WeVideo on your Chromebook, you can have Premiere Pro. We have 500 licenses now, so I'll give you a free license. Just go out and create, and then each week is something different. And so if you're not going to be incentivized by grades, then maybe you're incentivized by just having something to do in some sort of kind of meaningful and engaging way. So
Yeah,
hopefully
that's
that's going to be the carrot that I dangle, and it's going to be.
Well, they love carrots and they love competition, as do we. I'm actually doing something. I'm doing my notes on YouTube, because I can.
Yeah, I
do
saw
that.
that. That was cool.
Yeah,
That was really cool.
Well, I do illustrations. My notes are graphic and
Yeah,
like
I saw
illustration.
the what was it, Great Depression?
Yeah.
And the yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm doing is I'm putting a code in the notes and then scratching it out. But the first person who emails me that code gets the signed notes with a letter to them on the back.
Oh, cool.
So, it's the kind of thing when you're in high school, you're like, yeah, I suddenly want those notes,
Also, just obviously send it to me first, and then it will be worth way more. So I'll sign it too, and then we'll
Why?
have the double.
Why would it be worth more? More hands
I'll spill some Cumbies coffee all over it.
Well, that would make it worth a lot more. There's no question. Now, Waylon, we've had a good little promo here, and I just want to remind people, it's maybe a little loud, that we're going to try to be with you every weekday. And on this show, we'll be tackling very much where we think things could be going. That's what we're interested in. How will this impact us? And how are you doing in the valley? So we will have typically guests come on as well. It won't just be the two of us. I have a physical trainer, Alex Wegner, I'm hoping will join us, and a couple other things. So we shall see. Waylon, what's your plan for the rest of the day?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that I was looking pale, because I actually didn't sleep last night. I went to bed at 1, woke up at 2, and I just started cranking on this data for this research project that I'm doing.
Okay,
and the next thing I knew, it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was just ready to go. So I'll probably fall asleep like Rip Van Winkle, and I'll see you when all this is over.
Well, your sleep patterns have been weird. And I've been texting you. You don't get back to me sometimes. It's frustrating. What's going on?
If I don't, that means that I fell asleep at 5 o'clock at night, and I didn't wake up until 7 o'clock in the morning.
I guess that's what it is.
Or
I texted you last night. You didn't text me back. But you were awake.
Oh, no.
You just said you were awake.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely was awake for that. I was just ignoring it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't ignore me, please. It's frustrating. Well, I might be biking down to Pulaski Park. I'll tell you, March and April, as long as the sun is shining and there's no wind, everything is good. But if the sun is not shining and it's windy, it's just not spring. So we'll have to see how that works out. Meanwhile, thanks so much for being with us on the Free Associates. We hope to keep this up. I'm so glad that Waylon is with me, because we are compadres. We want to remind you, do you want to do your sign-off first? Because it's like a sports drink?
Well, this is the one we make fun of my dad for, because this is I'm going to amend mine, okay?
Okay.
The just do it or whatever. But my father, when we would go out to parties in high school, he would say, "Be smart, be safe, and don't be stupid."
Nice. So I like those. Be smart and don't be stupid, because there are different things. All right. Well, I'm going to say, stay calm, stay collected, stay connected, and stay healthy. And we will see you next time on the Free Associates. Bye-bye.